Hello, so the story starts, well, first on YouTube. I was watching a video on a channel I like, talking about this amazing piece of software with the tagline, "How the hell is this free?"
Mate.
And I put a post about this software on Instagram, and I got a like, and I thought, hang on, that name seems familiar. And it was the bloke who wrote the software. And anyway, one thing led to another, and I said, do you want to come and do an interview about it? And he said, yeah. And this is what we talked about.
Jonathan, thank you very much for coming. We've got the same house, it looks like. Yeah. It's a spot the difference, I think.
It's the classic people who make sound and noise, just junk everywhere.
You seem to be quite a prolific programmer, and you're also making a lot of, I guess, noise music or ambient music. Which came first? What do you primarily see yourself as?
I definitely see myself as a musician. I don't really see myself as a programmer. In fact, I people keep asking me for programming advice. I'm like, ask someone else is my advice. But so I'm a musician first, and that's my interest. And programming for me has always been, I need something that doesn't exist, so I will make it. And that's my kind of route into programming. And so, I've never really made something expecting other people to use it. And SoundThread is no exception. I wasn't expecting people to use that either, if I'm honest.
Well, we should talk about that. That's how we sort of got in touch. You programmed a front end, is that what you'd call it, on top of the composer's desktop project? Maybe you could explain a bit what I'm going to call it the CDP. Maybe you could explain a little bit what that is, because you know much more about that than I do.
Yeah, so CDP is a suite of audio processing tools. They've been in development for about 40 years now. They're a really old piece of software. They're not old because they're still being updated, but they're old in terms of like the lifetime of a piece of software. And really what they are, at the core, is just a massive folder with lots and lots of very small programs in that each do a couple of things to a sound file. And they are offline processing. So they were originally written for like one of the Atari home computers, when like real-time audio processing just wasn't possible, really. And so they run offline. They look at the entire file, they process it, and they give you back a file once they're done. And these days, that now runs a lot faster than real time, a lot of the time. For a lot of the processes, you can process like a 15-minute file in like 30 seconds, which is lovely. Back in the day, I imagine it was more like you set a process running, you go have a cup of tea, come back and see if it sounds any good. And so it's this huge suite. And it's been in development by a few different programmers and composers. I think most of them would similarly say, like me, that they are musicians first, programmers second. So Trevor Wishart has developed most of the audio processing, and then Richard Dobson has done a lot as well. Archer Endrich has done a lot of the documentation and things like that. It really is like a lifetime's work for multiple people who've been kind of working on it. So it just does stuff to sound that nothing else does. Like, there's some really crazy processing effects in there. There's no reason that other stuff can't do it. It's just kind of one of those things that, like, particularly now that most audio processing is done online in real time, that a lot of the stuff in there you can't do in real time. I get a lot of people asking me to make it a VST plugin. I can't. You can't do that. It's not possible. That's not how sound works. We can't see the future unless we have the whole file. So it just does really amazing stuff. No,
well, I guess, one of the reasons I was attracted to your software was very similar to how I do sort of the VJing. It's all node based, but I'm guessing it wasn't like that before. I've heard it was maybe quite difficult to use, or maybe it was like a sort of Well, I'm not sure what to say, like a command line sort of thing, or
Yeah, so you could use it in the command line, and you still can. I don't think many people do use it in the command line anymore. I think about 15, 20 years ago, they started making front ends for it. So there's three-ish existing front ends for it. There's two that are made by CDP. There's one called SoundLoom, which is what I have used for the last like decade or so with it. And SoundLoom is really like it's a front end to the command line. So it really is. It's just trying to minimize you having to type anything in. That's all it does. So it's very similar in the workflow. You load a file in, you choose the file you want to work with, you go to the process, you set its parameters, and then you process it through one process. And it's quite slow to work with that way. Like it can take quite a long time, particularly if processes have like specific file requirements. You might have to kind of convert files and things like that. It does let you access everything in CDP, like really just like anything that you can do in it, it's there, which is great. Yeah, but it can be a little bit esoteric to use. Like there's a lot of menu diving. It's not always particularly clear what things do, I would say. If you are familiar with CDP and everything it can do, SoundLoom is an amazing piece of software. If you know exactly what it is you want to do, it's great for that. But if you want to just like dive in and experiment, it's not so great for that. There's also SoundShaper, which is a little bit more user-friendly in that way. But it's Windows only, which does limit a lot of use. I think in terms of, well, let's have a look at the download statistics as of today. Yeah, about a third of my users are not on Windows. So that's a fair few people. And it's still not super intuitive. There's not a lot of like help built in. It kind of uses this almost like Excel spreadsheet system for like building up patches, which is a little bit confusing. I can't talk too much about SoundShaper because I have always just used SoundLoom. If I'm honest, I have like opened up SoundShaper a couple of times, yeah, they exist, but they're not the most user friendly or like immediately quick to use.
Well, what I liked about your program is really it's so simple. You can just move all the sliders, and there's like a black end and a white end, and if you put them together, it will just work. So even if you don't know what you're doing, you just type in some keys and something will come up, and you can find out what it does. So I'm really, really grateful for that. I don't suppose, are there any sort of go-to effects or modules? I'm not sure what you'd call them. Is there something you use all the time, or?
So I actually originally, the very, very first version of SoundThread, pretty much just had the distort algorithms in it. That's what I built it for. So I was working on a project where I was using the distort algorithms a lot with breakbeats. I was trying something out. May never see the light of day, that project. We'll see. Mostly because I've been very distracted and haven't finished it because I started making SoundThread. But so I was processing breakbeats, and all the breakbeats I was working with were stereo. And I love the distort algorithms. They're probably my favorite thing in CDP. Distort fractal, if I had to pick a favorite, is probably my favorite. Particularly if you like modulate it over time, you get these weird, like almost like glissando-y kind of sparkly things coming through. So it can't process. You can't process stereo files through the distort algorithms in CDP. They're mono only. So if you want to process a stereo file in SoundLoom through the distort algorithms, you have to load the stereo file in, split it to two mono files, go back to the file chooser, choose your two mono files, process them in parallel, come back, choose them again, re-interleave those to a stereo file, and then you can listen to it and see if it sounds good. And then it probably doesn't, so you have to go back and do the whole process again. That was literally, I've been doing that I've been working on that project for about a month, and I just like one day was like, I actually can't do this anymore. I need to make something that I can just put a stereo file in, put it through the distort algorithms, and it gives me the output so I can listen to it. So yeah, that's the whole reason I made it. There's a couple of others in there that I really like. I really like the ones in SoundThread. They're called like bounce inwards in the extend. Those are really fun. And there's one in MISC called modify stack. Oh, it's just called stack, I think. Modify stack's the CDP process name. And that takes like multiple copies of your sound file, pitch shifts them up and down by a certain amount. So you can do like octaves, you can have like multiple copies in octaves, and then you set a point in time in the sound file and it lines up that point in all of the files. So if you had like a drum hit, for example, as a very simple one, it's a little bit of silence at the start and then there's a drum hit, you can tell it how far the silence is at the start of the main file, and then it will take all your pitch shifted time stretched copies and line them up so the transient hits at the same point, so you get this huge stack of pitch shifted stuff lining up. And yeah, I really like that one when you have like something with a sharp transient and then some stuff after it, because you get like this synced moment and then everything gradually desyncs and kind of you hear it like pitch shift down almost as it goes through. So that one's a hidden gem. I don't think many people use that one. And then obviously the spectral stuff is crazy. I don't think I could pick a favorite spectral process.
Wow. Well, this sort of leads to the next question. I think I found Soundloom from a YouTuber I like, and he showcased the software, and then he said, "How is this free?" And that was the title of it. But it must have taken you a long time to make. How is this free, and how long did it take?
It hasn't taken that long, to be fair. Let's have a look. I did my very first version of it. I'd been working on it for a couple of weeks then on April, May. The 11th of May this year was when I published my initial version that was just did the distort algorithms, not very much else. And I think I'd only been working on it for 2 weeks or so before that. So it was something that's kind of like quite rapidly come to life. In terms of how is it free, I have another job and I do this in my spare time is how it's free. And for me, like, I wouldn't make music if it wasn't for open source software. Like, I wouldn't have been doing it. CDP is free and open source, and a lot of the tools I rely on are free and open source. So like I felt kind of like morally opposed to making this something that was paid for. So people can donate on Coffee, which is completely optional. You won't get anything extra if you do that. That's just there for people who would like to chuck me a couple of quid to try and keep me going, motivate me to not do something else.
There's also your music as well, of course. I'll put a link in the video.
Yeah, I'll be honest, making experimental music does not bring in the big bucks. That's also a thing I do for the love of it. Yeah, and then I might be starting up YouTube members. I haven't decided. A few people have suggested interest. YouTube keeps pestering me to do it. So if people are interested, I might give that a go.
Well, yeah. I did find your tutorial on how to set it up and everything really, really useful, I have to say. And it was so in-depth. It was, I thought I'm not going to be able to do this. And then I tried, and then it was, I was pleasantly surprised how easy it was. And that's all down to your videos.
I'm really glad. So as well as like quite selfishly just wanting to use the distort algorithm, like the other reason that I made this is I teach sound art. And a lot of my students are usually artists working in other fields. They might not be particularly computer savvy a lot of the time. And I always show them CDP for the last like 4 or 5 years. I'm like, look, this is amazing. And then they will go away and go, I could not get it installed. I could not open it. I couldn't make it do anything. So that was like my other, like the other like ethos behind just like, it does the things I want, is that like, this idea that it should just work. Like, you should just be able to run it, and like, even if it's a stupid idea, it will run it for you and just let you hear it. Whereas a lot of CDP will like try and stop you doing stupid ideas. But sometimes they're the best ones.
Stupid ideas are the best, aren't they? Just see what happens. And that's how you learn, I think. Speaking as a teacher myself, I've got one student who's into sort of noise music, and I've got one student who wants to get into programming. But you already said, well, don't ask me about any of that, but it's here on the paper. But I thought I might ask you in case you've got any advice or.
Yeah, I mean, for people who want to make art and music, like this sounds like a mean thing to say, but just do it. Like
Yeah.
the number of my students who come to me and they're like, "Oh, I wish I could make music." I'm like, "But you can. Nothing is stopping you. Start singing right now." Like, so like particularly with sound, it's like the most accessible art form there is. Like we cannot help but make sound. Like every single person on the planet, if they're alive, is making sound right now. Like so like just go and make something. And my main advice to people who want to make sound art is like accept that it's not going to be good. I think for a lot of people, like they have this thing that like the first thing you make has to be amazing. And we really don't approach any other part of our life like that. But for some reason, when we're like, I know it's really personal and like it feels like it, like you really put a lot into it. But just accept that like what you make is probably not going to be that good. And you will get better with time. And the only way to get better is to start making things and start trying stuff. And what I would say is programming is not dissimilar. Like it's not that like there's tons of help online. You can look up advice on like how to make stuff. SoundThread is built in a video game engine because that making a UI a lot quicker. That's why I managed to get from idea to prototype in 2 weeks because I was using a video game engine. So like I'm not doing a lot of low level programming. Like there's a lot of tools available to you that like will make it easier to do stuff. I'm not necessarily suggesting people build applications in video game engines. It was a really good idea when it was just for me, and now there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, I wish I'd just built this properly to begin with. But like, yeah, like, and there's tons of help online. There's loads of YouTube videos. Read the documentation. Like, all programming language will have tons of documentation. And if all of that is like not enough, go take a class. Like, in every major city in the world, you will find someone teaching evening classes, teaching things that will be usually low cost. You can go to workshops, things like that. And also just like reach out to people, like ask people for help and things like that. Like, don't be shy, particularly if you want to make like noise music or weird programming. Like the people making it are probably doing it because they love it and they'd be very happy to help someone else learn it. Like none of us are in this for huge profits. So I haven't got a lot of industry secrets to keep. If I know something, you can have it.
I'd love to say speak for yourself, but I'm in the same boat, really. We live in very strange and interesting times.
Mhm.
And you're sort of, maybe this is unfair, but I see you as someone on the cusp of technology and music. And maybe you could help me imagine what the future's going to be like. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about where it's going to go or?
Um, it's hard to say. I think there's a huge push to include AI in everything. Um, I would describe myself as like an AI agnostic. I neither like despise it or think it's amazing. I think it's very good at some very specific things, like sorting through a lot of data. It's very good at that. Making a piece of art, not so good. But like, I think we'll probably see like a drop in that. If I'm honest, I think we'll probably see a lot less interest in that in the coming years. As with any, like we throw this technology into everything. Like VR was everywhere for everything for ages, and now there's some stuff that does VR. It does it really well, but it's not the buzzword for everything. In terms of like sound and audio, um, I don't know. I mean, like the prediction that everyone always makes is that we're moving towards surround sound, but they've been predicting that since the 80s and it hasn't happened. So I'd be surprised. There's definitely with like immersive audio and Atmos and stuff like that, but I think for the most part consumers kind of view that as a gimmick. So like I don't know whether that is going to take off. I think we'll probably see as the kind of biggest change is just like stuff becoming more accessible still, and more people being able to make stuff. In terms of like a positive thing that's going to be like nice is that like more people are going to be able to access stuff, as stuff like computers are just getting faster and faster and faster, like you can run a DAW with plugins on like the cheapest laptops that you can buy now. I've got people running SoundThread on Chromebooks, not well, but it does run on like old Chromebooks and stuff like that. Like the kind of problems that I would run into when I first started making electronic music, like 15 odd years ago. I had a MacBook, and like I had to like I could barely have a number of channels and things like this. And like now I'm like I'll teach my students, and I'm like, you might not want to run too many of these in case your computer doesn't run it, and the computer's like, nah, just run it, doesn't matter. So I think that's probably what we're gonna see. Is just like technology gets faster and it becomes possible to do more stuff, and more people can do stuff.
Oh yeah, like you were saying before, there's like no excuse not to make anything now, really.
Yeah.
If you compare it to when I had an Atari ST or whatever, you know. But there we go. That's a long time ago now. Well, final question. Thanks very much for your time. How about what's the future for you? What are you going to be doing next? Yeah.
So probably sorting through hundreds of bug reports still is my main immediate future. And I'm working on the next update for SoundThread. Well, I say working on it, haven't really started yet, but I will be working on the next update for SoundThread, which is going to revamp all of the automation in there, and hopefully bring a lot more processes. There's a lot of processes in CDP that require like specific forms of automation that weren't possible to like draw in. So I'm going to be kind of making special windows for all of those. In terms of me and my music, I have an album out next year. I think it's April or May time. Can't remember now. I finished it like 6-7 months ago now. So it was like a year from when I sent it off to the label. It's coming out. So that's kind of slipped out my mind now. But that will be coming out on, there's a record label called Flaming Pines, who I released my last album on. And I'm hoping to play some more gigs next year. Have taken a couple of years off gigging because it was stressing me out. So I've got a gig in February and maybe one in March, maybe. February's in London. March, if it happens, will be in Berlin. And if anyone wants to book me to play any other weird noise gigs,
you should come to Japan. Really, that's a lot.
I would, but
it's full of noise gigs. You know, weird.
I
noise
do need someone to pay me to come. My album did sell very well in Japan, the last one, so sold better in Japan than it did anywhere else.
Fingers crossed if anyone's listening.